Alright guys, welcome to my monster review of, oh my god, and he just takes it out and uses it as a sword. My monster review of the Trickytrickster. He is the, well, he was a Tails monster not too long ago, and he was just recently available in Bounty Hunt, so I got him, and this review is for anyone who wants to know what you should be doing with him. So, he's a Galactic Era, Water and Dark attacker with negative effects. So, did that kid just say trick or treat? You ask yourself, or you would have if only Trickytrickster hadn't attacked you before you finished that thought. This dark attacker is a quick, lethal shadow who blends in perfectly on a spooky Halloween night. So, lore's pretty cool. It implies that this monster has a massive speed stat. But I'd have to go and confirm that. So look, I guess like he was a denier at the time, right? 862. Yeah, so he wasn't even that fast. I don't get why his lore puts an emphasis on his speed. But whatever. Then his finisher, Dress to Scare, deals moderate water damage to all enemies, applies Fear, Bleed, and 3-turn countdown. 3-turn till death countdown. Okay, I'm sorry. I really like this. It's actually quite cool because Fear and the 3-turn till death countdown is just like the funnest RNG to play with, because for those of you guys who don't know what Fear does, the monster loses their turn and has 50% to lose a 50% chance to lose their next turn. So basically, it's luck based, but you could essentially, if you're really lucky, get them denied 3 turns in a row, and if that happened, their 3-turn till death countdown would trigger, and they would die. And I will say, quite a few monsters use this mechanic, like Lord Heyman and Chronobite. I have used Lord Heyman for it before, and it actually works sometimes, so it's interesting, plus it gives bleed. I can't really see the damage, but I'll check it in a little bit. Alright, now let's go over his trait. So his trait is interesting. I thought it was a lot worse than this. So first you have True Vision, precision doubled. This actually works in his favor more than you would think it would, because he is an attacker with like 3 different negative effects that he really likes to stack. Like, I went over his skill set before I made this review. So like half healing, half healing, I just said that twice. Shield block, total damage reduction. So he relies on negative effects, and having True Vision at rank 0 basically means that you'll never miss any of them. And he's got one move that's essentially an AoE plus denial, soft denial. So interestingly enough, that's not that bad, although I still can't say if that saves him. Then you've got Immune to Fear, gives immunity to fear. I mean, not much more said. It's just a immunity to 1 denial. I guess because for a while they kept trying to make monsters for it in the Galactic Era, when they introduced the mechanic of fear with like Lord Heyman and Chronobite. But really, it's just not a deadly denial. Not yet. Not until we get like a really deadly monster with it. But for what it's worth, it's a denial to a powerful denial effect. So, and then we have Status Caster, Immune to Torture. This is actually really great. Sadly, it's one of those things where he can't reapply it. But for the first, 3 turns of the match where the Status Caster lasts, he's pretty tanky. He won't be missing his attacks, and he'll be immune to the Status Casters and stuff, meaning that you can kind of charge through into all of these obsidian relics that reflect dots and stuff and still be okay, without getting torn to shreds. So luckily, I got 3 rune slots unlocked, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna use him. That's what we're all gonna find out in this monster review right now. Alright, so first we got Sour Candy. Applies major damage reduction and shield block to all enemies. This is really bad. It's kind of a cursor move. I guess this guy's a cursor attacker. Major damage reduction. I'm really not a big fan of damage reduction in any single way. I acknowledge that it could be useful in some scenarios, maybe it keeps the Cherub Cupid or like, whatever Pierce monster from being able to one-shot you. It's definitely unblockable because there's no trait to like have an immunity to it. So if you do it to like a Pierce monster, if you do it to any of these immune to control, immune to torture, immune to, cooldown activation, there's people immune to everything right now. So in that sense, blinding and damage reduction does have another kick, and immune to blind is very popular. So that does leave this as the one thing that you'll always be able to land. But in the sense of this move, a shield break and a slight damage reduction is definitely not worth running in any scenario. Then we've got Practical Joke. Deals moderate damage to one enemy. Dark damage, applies half healing, and then that's it. 25 stamina, 1 turn cooldown. That's honestly really low damage. If it were higher, maybe, but it was low. Next we got Sugar Goblin, applies major damage reduction to one enemy, spammable if as long as you have the stamina. But as I said, I'm not a big fan of it as if it's alone. Chewy Chunks deals low dark damage to one enemy, applies damage reduction. All right, 0 stamina, 0 cooldown. So a big fan of this damage reduction. Oh my god, I've said it a million times already. Then we've got Jump Scare, deals moderate dark damage to one enemy, applies negate healing. So I really like this. Finally, because when you do half healing, they can still heal. Like it doesn't negate the effect, so it's kind of useless because at the end of the day, they'll still heal. You're not actually stopping them. You're just making it kind of slower, and that's a useless thing to do in the meta. But with negate healing, it just shuts it down completely. Of course, people love the more popular mechanic, reverse healing, which turns it against them in a very powerful way. Sadly, he doesn't have that, but at least he has negate healing, honestly. At least he has that. On 42 stamina, 2 turn cooldown, like 45 strength. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty strong attack, but let's see what else he's got. Acid Corn. All right, so it looks like the same exact damage on these two moves. For a single and an AoE water to all enemies. So keep in mind the fire and light meta, which this guy is basically going to be your best shot against because, he's a water attacker. Whenever you use water attackers or you rank them up just because they're element, that's so those monsters, specifically Serpentex, Lord Heyman, Elvira, and Cupid. One good thing about them is that they are the dangerous part of the fire meta and the light meta, but none of them have dodge area. So an AoE, simply put, will do. So a strong AoE on a 40 stamina 2 turn cooldown, it's less than this somehow. With the shield breaker is useless, honestly. There's hardly even any talents that apply shield, and now that talents are out of the picture, it's completely useless. Like against maybe the Megaton monsters, I gotta say. Still quite a bit of Megaton monsters that are always going to use shields, but I feel like that's the only time you'll actually see it come in handy. Ooh, then we've got Peanut Partisan. Deals massive water damage to one enemy. 3 turn cooldown, 48 stamina. Alright, so yeah, we already know what this move is. It's basically just your Cherub Cupid killer. You use this move, you try and one-shot any fire monster you're fighting against, and boom. I will say 48 stamina, 3 turn cooldown. It is a very strong move, but it has a hefty cost. So you got to keep that in mind. And then Trick or Trick. So another AoE at like 45 damage. He has very powerful AoEs. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies. Alright, so strong dark AoE. Applies negate healing and total damage reduction. So yeah, I think this is always going to be the move you start off with. This is where I see some good potential as a cursor because as an attacker who can do a total damage reduction, it's a lot better than the major damage reductions, so you don't need to be like, oh, here's major damage reduction and it's completely useless. But then again, that doesn't mean it's good because both of these are watered down mechanics of way better things. Like, total damage reduction is better than nothing, but you'd rather like a stun or at least a total blind. Negate healing, stops them, but you could have turned it against them. Like total damage reduction stops them from doing any damage to you, but you could have stopped them from doing anything to you. So at the end of the day, I feel like his mechanics are just very watered down, which is why people really didn't care much when he came out. I will say he's got pretty high damage, but pretty high stamina cost. I do find it interesting that he just takes that thing off his head and stabs you with it. Like, I feel like it'd be a very flimsy thing to start stabbing people with. So, definitely an attacker. I'm not sure if I'll use him in war, which is why I'm hesitant to throw any runes on him. Let me go over it with the council real quick. Alright, so I'm pretty confident in saying I will not use this guy at all. But for the purpose of the monster review and for the fact that once I get Boss Directs, I'm going to have to do his Era Saga, and his Era Saga has like no attackers in the restrictions book other than Trickytrickster. I'll give him some runes. I'll think about if I should rank him up. I don't know. He just doesn't seem that great. But here I'll try and show you what I'm trying to showcase. Here's a good showcase. So, oh, but I didn't choose the team at all. All right. So we're reviewing Trickytrickster. So let's go Astronite era. This guy. No AoE deniers, huh? Here. Monster device. And Georgia Lotto for fun. All right. And this is really gonna be PvP. And it's not about the legendaries here, but it's about the scenario, right? Where you have two monsters, let's say these guys are deadly. Let's say like this is Galvanus and this is someone else, right? The big thing about Trickytrickster isn't that he's good necessarily at all. The whole big thing about him is that, oh, well, once you get into the meta, let's say this is your Cherub Cupid, you're gonna go in, you're gonna do your AoE, and you're gonna instant kill. And oh, if you see there's an opening, you're gonna do his massive attack, and you're gonna instant kill. Or if the situation called for it, and you saw Cherub Cupid, but you decide, hey, I'm not afraid of fighting him, then you could do total damage reduction, right? Because let's say, yeah, look. So let's say these two could only do dots other than their damage. So them attacking with total damage reduction wasn't actually a worry. Boom, I do this AoE. Their damage is reduced by, totally. I don't know why I just explained it like that. So that's total damage reduction plus added to that negate healing, which with the monster with raw damage output, you're always going to trigger those healing relics. So it's, convenient. I wouldn't say good, but convenient to have that ability in your arsenal to be able to negate healing. So at the very least, if you're not reversing it, at least you're not leaving it alone. At least it's an extra little mechanic they threw in there. But still, I feel like it's pretty bad. I can't advertise it at all. Boom. Just gonna do that for fun. And yeah, he's pretty hard to showcase without giving him good runes or like planning to use him, because when you're not planning to use somebody, you really don't deck him out. And I'm guessing this guy is a trap relic guy. Like, watch. How much do you want to bet? Here, boom and massive. You're always just going to kind of rely on that. And the big fact with him is he's supposed to be one of those guys where it's like, oh, well, his skills are pretty bad, but his damage output is insane. And the problem with the raw damage output is that it gets outdated quickly. So this guy is not going to get the Omni-Crab thumbs up. All right. So maybe decent addition, but his element kind of screws him over. I don't know. I just can't see him as a really good monster worth ranking up over all of the other Galactic Era monsters. Galactic Era was it was really a pretty bad era, to be honest. And this was just a forgettable monster. Just to go over it real quick, he does have true vision, so he'll always be hitting his curses that he's trying to, apply. And he is immune to torture, so he'll be a pretty tanky raw damage output attacker. So he'll have high damage, massive, 2 very high AoEs. If you're fighting a Uriel, you can destroy them with the dark. If you're fighting any of the dangerous fire monsters, you can destroy them with the water. But that's really it, and you never want to have to rely on your element alone, So I'm going to have to give him a thumbs down. He's not a bad monster, but he's just not... I just wouldn't recommend ranking him up. So that's him. That's Trickytrickster. Cursor attacker with immune to torture. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informational or helpful, because I really didn't know if I was going to rank this guy up either. I had to talk to my good friend Abrigo midway through to decide. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the support I really need. Leave a like to support the video and the algorithm. I haven't posted for like 2 days, so I'm going to need that extra help. Leave a comment and I will respond. I always love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think he's useless? Did you get him to rank 5? Do you ever use him? You tell me. He's one of the holiday goblins, if anyone knows what that means. And subscribe to join the Crab Army. We are almost at 220 subscribers, and that is a very satisfying number. So let's get there. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you in the next one, and I hope you have an amazing day. That's about it. Your favorite Omni-Crab signing out.